Hey guys, this is Ed from Mission Ed Possible. Welcome back to RetroGrade, where we rank Atari 2600 games. This week we are ranking the Supercharger games, the ones that put out by Arcadia / Starpath. We had a great stream this week, and we're going to be ranking all these games now. This is going to be a fun week to rank games. A lot of good ones in here. So I'm going to have you go ahead and start.
Me first. How rare.
How rare, yes.
Final time ranking things, and I get to go first for the first time.
First time ever.
Go back and double check all of the videos, everybody. You'll see. First time.
Never done it before.
Never done it before. But
so I'll just copy you on all the scores anyway, so it's fine.
It does happen.
Funny enough, our scores really are not that far apart from each other.
Oftentimes. Sometimes they're a little different, but there's definitely a certain understanding that we both have about what's fun and not.
We've never had something where you give it an S and I give it a D.
No, I guess not, but I've definitely given things C's that you've given B's or A's.
That's true. It's
a little different.
A little bit of a skew, but not much.
All right. We've got the Communist Mutants from Space.
Yep.
A very strange name for a game.
Yes.
Doesn't really portray that in the thing. Cool box art, I guess. They look sort of freaky on there.
Yep. And this was the one where the little guy was putting out the little...
it was the Brick Break.
Yeah.
Plus Space Invaders. Plus kind of Demon Attack because of the way, attack patterns and the different kinds of things.
Yep.
Really cool game for what it was. I think, I'm going to start it off good. I'm going to give this one an A.
Okay.
I have mentioned many times how I was kind of done with the shoot up at space things.
Right.
This one really did get me though.
How do you think it was so much better than the other ones?
Well, for one thing, it just the goal was a lot clearer. It wasn't just also infinite random bad guys. Mm-hmm. You're trying to shoot the guy who's laying these weird rectangular eggs or whatever. Mm-hmm. Once you shoot him, you can not shoot the rest of them as long as you dodge. It gives you kind of multiple ways to kind of finish out a level too. If you want to be more conservative, you can just dodge. Mm-hmm. If you want to get more score, you can try and shoot them because they become more aggressive after you kill the big guy, it seems. Because I'm not really sure why, but just something about the action, they seem to be... It seems to ramp up right after you kill the big guy. But also, there are so many of these games where it's like they're clearly coming from a ship and your bullets stop at the ship.
Yeah, that's always been kind of weird. It's like, what? Yeah.
So this has kind of that catharsis. Mm-hmm. Equally, I won't lie, just the vast array of options for a game on the 2600, like the slow bullets or the time warp, the curvy bullets, and the difficulty options, to the point where difficulty 9 and difficulty 1 are truly different games because of the way the bullet sizes change. It's an actual different difficulty instead of just seemingly like, oh, now there's more people. Well, there's more people. They do different things. It was just really... It had a lot, and it was just a tight first game to play.
I can't disagree. I'm not sure. For me, I'm not sure I'm going to give it more than a B, though. And the reason why is because at the end of the day, it was just a shoot up a space game. Yes, it had a little bit of a different twist to it, and it did look better, but it didn't add so much more to me. And after playing all these games, if we just ranked this versus all the other games, I would say that it'd be really a lot higher. But compared to some of these other games we have going on today, I'm just kind of going, wow, this was a good game. I think that there's a lot more that are better that are coming up now.
I do agree with that, but I will say that... as far as it goes, this is probably one of the best shoot-up-at-space games that I've played in a long time for this series. We played some good ones, but this one has its own identity in a way that I'm kind of surprised at.
Cool.
But the next one is Dragonstomper, which was
just
kind
Stomper.
of... Oh, is it not Stompers?
Correct.
It kind of looks like...
It kind of got cut off.
Yeah. It's all right. I'm not too worried about it either way, because it's a great game regardless. It's like an actual This is
actual RPG.
Yeah, this is kind of like an almost I don't know how else to say, but upgraded version of like adventure.
Sure.
It has the same kind of simple appeal to it, but it's got so much more going on. And it was fun, too. Mm-hmm. I was actually really enjoying myself. It honestly felt a lot like the first Dragon Quest, almost, if you've ever played that.
A little bit.
But
yeah.
You know, it has... Obviously, it's more pared down than that, because that came out on a later console and had a lot more options. But for the various limitations that this thing had, I can't not give it an S. That's this is kind of impressive that it is what it is, you know?
To me, this is top on the system, man. It's a very high ranking game, in my opinion. I mean, just the fact that it's a real RPG. I mean, it's not like the typical, you know, games that are kind of RPG like. And I mean, this had the ability to do all these different things. You can use items and you can get, it was just phenomenal. I was talking to a friend of mine and about it, and he mentioned this one being his favorite. And I'm like, really? I haven't played it yet. And so I was really excited about playing this. And so, yeah, definitely not disappointed at all. Very, very cool game. And we only saw like the first level area, and there's actually multiples that we can get to.
But just for the amount of time we had, I think we covered a decent amount to say that that's a really fun game.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And I'm almost sad that there's not a lineage like there is for Dragon Quest.
Sure, Dragonstomper 5.
Where it got to be more complicated over time.
Right.
Maybe it's because the title's a little silly and not quite so serious, but I don't know. I would love to have seen a development of this, because it's a very solid base to build off of. So, Starpath, doing pretty good so far.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not going to stop for this next one, because this is Mindmaster.
Escape from the
Mindmaster, where you're walking around various mazes, avoiding his minion, collecting puzzle pieces, putting them in. I'm going to give this one an A for sure. I'm actually going to, thinking about it, I am going to put it under the Communist Mutants from Space. Mm-hmm. The reason being is that I was super duper satisfied in that first level. Mm-hmm. It was really fun to get everything. But the two things that keep it from being like either S or higher in A for me are, in the second level, all of a sudden they're the sort of platform, not really platforming, but the movement challenges of like those squares shooting out of the wall.
Right.
It's actually really difficult to get past.
Right.
Like to an extent where I never did.
Right.
And that felt like, okay, it's going to be more than this, and I'm just never going to really have the time to get past it.
Right.
And that just felt like, okay. And the second thing was, I didn't know what was going on with like any of those mini games.
Right.
It's really cool that they have them, but like that second mini game was like, what? Nothing's happening.
I imagine the manual probably says, but
and I'm sure it mentions it, but just on the basis of like, it's so intuitive, like finding a puzzle piece, because the first hallway is just filled with all the most of the puzzle pieces.
Right.
Like 3 out of the 4 from the first level are right there in that first hallway. Right. And you can go down them and you see them and it's like, okay, that's a shape. Press a button, nothing happens. Then later, you see that same shape somewhere and you press a button and it's like, oh, I know what to do with this.
Yeah.
It follows a logic so well that it's like, I know exactly what I'm doing.
Yeah.
It's intuitive. Whereas they don't really put that intuition into the rest of, like not to everything. Which is a long-winded way of saying, really cool though. They could have had a couple of little things.
They could have, those are easily fixable things.
Yeah.
They could have been like, like if they had more playtesting with other people, like go, we didn't really like this part. The idea of the game is amazing. I agree with you. It's an A title to me. The fact that it has the maze on the screen, it has a full like 3D viewport. And at first, I wasn't quite sure that like like, it wasn't obvious to me that it was a puzzle piece, but until I saw that, there was a colored one and you clicked it and then it put it in your inventory. I'm like, okay, that made a lot more sense. It was like, put it in the black one.
Once you get there, it starts to click. The more you gather, it starts to click more and more.
Yep.
And then, there's only one door in the whole place that you can't go through.
Right.
And so it stands to reason, okay, it seems like I've done everything.
Pieces?
Let me try this door. And it works.
Yeah.
So
that was really cool, especially when you got the stairs. I'm like,
it was also
cool.
really well animated.
Yeah.
But I just think,
you're going upstairs
the only thing that stops it from being higher, like the top of A for right now, is just that I don't think it fully realized, with a small few tweaks, it could be one of the best ones they've had.
Mm-hmm.
But so it's just really, really good, though. Yep. Just cannot complain about it.
Cool.
So Fireball.
Yep.
Was sort of a bricky thing as well. Yeah. Except it had a guy.
Bricky thing. Yeah. Breakout clone.
Yeah. The clone from that one iPhone game with the click wheel.
There you go.
You know the one? Not iPhone, iPod.
I know something about the iPod, yeah.
Yeah, man, that was fun.
Yeah. What was it? Blackberry. Blackberry had one too.
Oh, did they?
Yeah,
awesome.
This little scroll wheel. You could
that sounds actually hilarious.
Yes.
I'm surprised that brand of phone didn't continue. It doesn't matter. We're Fireball, though.
Okay.
I'm going to put this one in a B because it's not bad. It's pretty good. But it's also it's got several modes that are pretty cool. I really like that. But at the end of the day, it is just Breakout with more than one ball. And
better graphics and all that. I mean, it's going to be the best Breakout game.
It's the epitome of Breakout, for sure. Like, I don't think we played several of these kind of brocking games, and none of them really compare to what this did. But also, it's just that. It's just like, wow, this is the best version of this thing. And that thing is very simple. And it doesn't then add so many layers of complexity that I'm really all that interested in it.
Fair enough.
Not in a bad way, but in a way of good. But that's all that's there.
Yeah, I mean, all the different modes and the fact that it's multiplayer, you can play up to 4 people.
It is pretty cool.
They did a great job with it, but I kind of feel like at the end of the day, kind of like Communist Mutants from Space, at the end of the day, they didn't do anything revolutionary.
And that one, I feel much more with this one than with the Communist Mutants. So it's just like, it deserves its B placement in a very good way. To be a B in here is not a bad thing.
No.
The next one is the official Frog.
The official Frogger. Not just Frogger. Official
makes
Frogger.
Me feel like the other Frogger wasn't official.
Yeah, I found out the deal is with that.
Okay,
so how they were able to make the official Frogger? So Parker Brothers, as you know, made the other Frogger, the one that most people know of, and so they had the licensing rights to be able to produce cartridges for the 2600. Since this was a cassette, it didn't have the same licensing. Yes. So, I mean, obviously they had to license it and all that, but because it was a cassette, they were able to do it.
That's pretty impressive, actually.
Something else I found out is that these, because they were on cassette, they were much cheaper than the cartridges. These are only $15 a piece.
Really?
Yes. Wow. Compared to like $30, $40 for the other ones.
And more, yeah.
Yeah. They're half price. That to me, and
half price for the quality that you got.
Yeah, and the fact that the quality was so much better.
I guess you did have to buy
Yeah, you had to get the Supercharger. Yeah, that was like $70. It came with Phaser Patrol, which we're going to be ranking here soon. But I mean, talk about a deal. I mean, that
sort
was
of pays
really
for
cool.
itself.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. So
that's cool.
Yeah. So,
I haven't ranked it yet. You're getting ahead of yourself.
Sorry.
I'm gonna put Frogger at the top of A though. That is a really good version of Frogger. It's very. Yeah. It's very Frogger.
Frogger is better than the other Frogger.
Very much so. It has music. It has really cool animations.
This is S tier for me. I love Frogger, and
That's true. I remember you mentioning this with the other Frogger.
Yeah, I love Frogger, and while the other version is decent, this one just blows it out of the water. And it's just it is close to the arcade as pretty much as you can get. And at least on this system,
right.
And I really loved it. The fact that I had the sound effects, had the music. Music is a huge part of Frogger, and it did very similar stuff to what the arcade game did. So I can't talk it up enough. I mean, at the end of the day, it is still Frogger, but it is an amazing Frogger. So I got to go S for that.
Heck yeah.
So the next one is a prototype that's going up. And
right.
So there's no box art for it, so that's why it's
I don't really...
Let's put it in D because, but that's not actually D. It's going to be kind of
It is sort of, though, because it isn't, at the end of the day, a game. So when you're ranking games... I wouldn't play this one again. So
that's true. Good point.
It had an interesting bit of art asset. You'll see it here. We've only had a very short amount of time with it, but it had an interesting character, and the title seems like it could have been something cool. It just didn't ever come out. It didn't do anything yet.
What would crack me up is the polish that they had on the game, the animation on the guy, and all the stuff, and all the the title thing that was scrolling on the screen. Whoever made that did an amazing job with it. It just didn't quite get to the part where he added the game part.
Right. There's no actual gameplay. It's just a guy on a screen.
Yep.
Which just sort of fun. It's sort of fun that they were going to do something a little bit interesting, maybe. But
it's unfortunate that it didn't come out because I could have seen that. Just
I do wonder. I really do wonder what the premise was even fully going to be.
I just by seeing the graphic of the guy, you could tell he had character.
Yeah,
he had his antenna would bounce and stuff. They just did
back and forth,
really really cool animation and stuff. And I'm sad that it didn't come out, but.
We should riot about it.
Yeah, there you go. Or just take it on and just actually try to finish it. Yeah.
Hey, that's your next game project.
There you go. Yeah,
we'll finish some prototypes.
There we go. That'd be actually kind of an interesting thing. It's just going around just finishing prototypes.
Sounds like a game jam idea.
Yeah, exactly.
Take this single screen and make it into something.
Yep.
I think that would be actually kind of fun.
Yeah.
Any game jammers out there, you let me know.
Yeah.
I'll take a very small percentage.
Just for your idea, right? Okay.
Or at least invite me over.
There you
Send me the official drink of whatever game jam you're doing. Send me the jam. The game jam. How is that not a thing?
The game jam?
Yeah, because they've got all these gamer energy drinks that are like game this and game that. Game jam is such a big thing in the indie scene.
Sure.
How has there not been at least one jar of game jam?
Oh. I was for some reason thinking you were talking about like a soda called Game Jam. No, you're actually talking about actual jam.
Literal jam.
Like
in a jar.
Jam.
And then, you spread it on your game toast.
Does he need game bread and a game toaster? To make your game toast,
I'm pretty sure,
your game jam on?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure they make toasters that like burn in the face of Pikachu or something.
There you go.
Well, I'll use that. It'll work out.
Okay.
But the next game that we're actually ranking, outside of the great idea that is Game Jam, I'll put a logo up if we design one, but we probably won't. Patent pending. TM. Is Killer Satellites, which was kind of a Defender-esque style of game. Had a really pretty decent aesthetic, played pretty well, had a variety of difficulty, all from like too easy at 1, all the way up to 95, which was
insane.
Yeah, I mean, when the footage comes up, you'll see it. There's just things everywhere. It's like they just copy and pasted every enemy a million times. It was crazy. No way to win at 95, I don't think. I think it might probably be impossible. But it was pretty solid for what it is. Problem is, I'm not a huge Defender guy. It just has none of those games of that style have ever really captured me very much. So I'm going to give it a high B. But it is cool. It has interesting graphics, and I like the sound, and everything about it is good. It's just also not my kind of game.
I agree. I'm probably, let's see, do I put it? Ooh, I'm gonna go middle of the road, I think. It did well. I mean, it did what it wanted to do well. I think it out-defender.
Very much so.
I mean, I don't think there was any smart bomb ability, but the idea of it and what they implemented on it looked really good. It played really solidly. But I'm right there with you. I've never been a big Defender fan.
It's just
too kind of the fact that you can go back and forth. It kind of made it too complicated to me. It was, versus a standard horizontal shooter.
I think
where it's just you have these guys to shoot, not going back and forth.
I think my biggest thing about all Defender games is it feels like there's something missing from them. Because they're just complicated enough with the going back and forth and all of this other stuff that feels like something else should be going on. Mm-hmm. But you just are forever shooting guys who are coming down to blow up cities.
Right.
There's, in most of the Defender games, and, Killer Satellites, we didn't get this far, I suppose, but it's not like there's levels. You're not like going to different places or anything. Sure. It's just so that one looping screen that it just feels not as interesting as it could be.
Right.
Which is just kind of a letdown for what the complex nature of a 2600 game where you get to go back and forth and it has
no multiple screens.
No,
same screen.
Yeah. Same
just
screen.
Harder guys, faster, blah 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 blah.
It's neat, but it's just not for me.
Right. I can't disagree. All right.
Next up, we've got the Party Mix.
Yep.
I'm gonna give Party Mix just a middle B. Because we played one of 5 things that was supposed to be on it.
Yep.
We couldn't get the emulator to get the rest. And it was decently fun. It wasn't, that on its own, I would probably have given a C, but I know there's more to it, and I just don't feel right saying that I wouldn't go back to it. If I had the chance to play the rest of them, I would, and I'm going to say that that's a B for me then.
I agree. I mean, it's one of those things that, we've talked about, like a game that you could do co-op, couch co-op with, or someone's not, in some of these cases, it's maybe not co-op, but party game.
Yeah. Your Mario parties and your various other things.
Yeah. I'm gonna. Yeah, unfortunately, what we played was okay.
Yeah, it was decent, but it's just not.
I'm gonna give it a pass. I'm gonna still put it in the B as well. It was neat, but I feel like if that was the game, that would have probably been a C.
Yeah, that was all there was. But it's also like I think we were hearing that it's kind of an obligatory 4-player game. Like you're almost on teams and you're supposed to be shooting at the other guys. And
so it's really hard for us to rank it.
Yeah, we don't really have the ability to experience the full birth of either the one section of the game we played or the whole thing.
Right.
But given the decidedly fairly good, interesting quality of the sound effects, like the design of the level and like the graphics themselves, I would say I have faith that Party Mix deserves where I'm putting it. Maybe it deserves more, but I'm not going to put more of a push than I already am.
Fair enough. It's I think high middle kind of.
Yeah, it's reasonable.
Yeah,
it's reasonable for what it is, and I think that's fair.
Fair enough.
See? It is.
It is fair enough.
I'm right.
I'm not disagreeing with you.
Yeah, see? He always thinks I'm right. That's why.
Always thinks you're right.
Yeah.
Wow.
Always thinks I'm right.
Uh-huh.
You may disagree with exact placements, but you know I'm in the right spot. Phaser Patrol is the next one.
That's the one, the
pack-in.
Yep.
Good pack-in.
Yep.
I had a lot of fun with this game. I'm going to give this one a high A, actually. This... Maybe right here, because one thing that I will say as a slight criticism. Well, order of operations. Let's go positives first. Why is this an A? Really cool graphics, very fun, satisfying combat, straightforward sort of system. That sort of Stellar Track and various other kind of
Star Raiders,
spacey games. Hold on, spacey games and whatever. Yeah. All of them have kind of that similar vibe, but this does it while looking really well and playing very smoothly. Like the switching back and forth between the screens was nice, and there's just a lot that works well in this game that it makes it one of my favorites of this kind. It's simple enough to pick up and play, but it's got some complexity where it's like, okay, there's still a lot to do. The reason it doesn't go any higher than this, though, is like we were playing on different difficulties. It was never that hard, and I could definitely see, unless there's more to it as you progress in level, which is totally possible. We didn't have enough time to clear the full map to see if it's a you win or here's more interesting stuff, which is totally possible given how complex and full a lot of these games are that they made. Barring that, though, kind of repetitive after a minute. Like, it's really cool to see all the different shots you take and the curving bullets that, the torpedoes that track and lock on and stuff.
Right.
But it's like, there's nothing more than that so far. It's that, and then when you get hurt, go to a planet and heal up.
Right.
So it's like, cool, but not...
Yeah, I feel like it's derivative. I mean, it's really, it's good. Don't get me wrong. And I'm going to give it an A as well. But I mean, Star Raiders did it. Yeah, yes, it has better controls.
Smoother,
because you didn't need to have an overly complicated with the keyboard controller and the joystick that you needed for Star Raiders.
Yeah, or even just two joysticks.
Now, the one advantage that we have is that we're able to map.
In the future,
we're able to
have
map
the difficulty switch just right there. But even then,
if you had to get up to hit the button,
although to be fair, every this might not have been representative of reality. Every commercial you've ever shown me of the Atari 2600,
they're right there.
They're sitting like next to the console.
Yeah,
and it's like
when we used to watch TV, man, we used to watch it like 2 feet away from it. Yeah. Well, we had smaller TVs then.
I know it totally, and so it.
So it had to be, had to be like right up close to it.
But to an extent, I do think it would make sense. It wouldn't be the hardest thing in the world if you knew that was the case to be a
you have to be like, I gotta be here to play the game.
Like, and I'll do and I think in that way, even more so than like, to an extent, I like that better than the two controllers, because the two controllers feels kind of like wonky. A weird deal. Yeah. But this, in some ways, I think also fits with the theme of like, I'm in space and I've got my console.
Well, kind of like what they did for Space Shuttle.
Yeah, exactly. Where there's
very cool
various stuff.
Going on. I love the idea of repurposing the switches. Now, one thing I will say is on the original, on the 6-switch model, those difficulty switches were like toggles on the front, which made a lot more sense. On the 4-switch model, they went to the back, and there were those little like slide switches that are like
so the Sixers would have been better.
Yeah, but it would have been a little bit awkward. But I mean, it's still doable, but it's just not as cool as just having
those very nice like.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I feel like
definitely
they did a good job.
They did a great job at what they were doing, but it is derivative, and without really the time or whatever to dive into it much further than we did, it's like cool. It is what it is, and that's it's good, but it's not gonna get my S.
Sure. Okay, Rabbit Transit.
You know what? Rabbit Transit kind of surprised me. That was actually a lot more fun than I was thinking it was going to be at first. Mm-hmm. Like
it's kind of 2 games in one.
Yeah, that first screen, I was like, oh, this doesn't look like much of anything.
Right. It starts you off pretty easy. Though.
Starts you off real easy. You're a rabbit trying to get to a turtle who's then going to take you to a game of Cubert, kind of.
Pretty much.
Or, like one of those Frostbite switch tile, tile switching games.
Yep.
And when you do that, there's lots of them. You hop around. There's some challenges. Pretty fun. And then each level does get harder for the first intro screen where you're trying to jump down to the turtle. And it makes it its own unique game. You're right. And I think that should be applauded. Mm-hmm. My difficulty is I had some fun with it, but do I give it a high B or a low A because of that? Because it's like, at the end of the day, though, the controls were a little weird. I'm going to give it a high B, I think.
Well, because everything was diagonal. So they did like the Cubert.
Everything was diagonal. But because there's no real diagonal functionality, you have to go left. And left can be left up and left down at the same, like, you've got to, like, kind of finagle it a little bit. It was a little awkward at times because of that, but it was genuinely fun.
I liked it. I'm going to give it an A. I thought that, you know, at the beginning you're like, well, what is this? I mean, the graphics look really good and all that, but it was like, what's going on? But I found myself wanting to keep playing it. It was just kind of like, all right, this is a lot of fun. I mean, yes, you know, it's kind of got the Cubert-esque things, but you don't have a bunch of enemies on the screen. You can't jump off the screen. There's some bounds to it.
Some safety nets.
Yeah, they
and
kept it
quality of life.
Yep. But it kept getting harder. I mean, we got up pretty high on that game.
Yeah, we got several levels in, and it was actually getting difficult in a way that was interesting.
I liked the fact that it just ramped it up. You know, it's like at the very beginning, it's like super easy. Then it just gets harder and harder, and they did a good job on that curve, on the difficulty curve. You know, because at the beginning you feel like this is nothing much. You know, and it's like, oh, okay, it keeps getting harder and harder, and I don't know, it felt right. So, and it wasn't derivative. I mean, the Cubert thing it kind of had some of the elements there, but I wouldn't call it a Cubert clone or anything. So
no, not at all.
Yeah,
but cool game though.
Yeah,
another one where they did something creative, and I appreciate that. The next one is Suicide Mission, which is sort of another weirdly internal shooty
Fantastic
game.
Voyage.
Yeah, Fantastic Voyage.
Mixed with asteroids.
And the asteroids thing is weird, though, because one thing that's cool is as you go up in difficulty, the movement changes of you as well as the number of enemies. If you go to hard, you're always moving.
Right.
That's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
The having a self-destruct switch to clear the screen.
That was the most interesting thing, I think, to me. It was like, wait a minute. So that's just an odd thing to just be able to. But what was interesting is it wasn't you just hold it or you just hit it once and you blow up. No, you have to hold it, get all the way till the screen be white, and then wait like a couple seconds.
Yeah, you have to hold it that whole time. But if you charge it up, you can leave it there. And but you can still do it faster. Then if I don't think I can get out of the situation, you can blow up. And yes, you died, but you were going to die anyway. So it's a very interesting risk-reward kind of deal. Right. It's like you can basically skip a level, but you're going to lose a life for it.
Right.
And I thought that was really interesting. But also, it's asteroids, but with no inertia and weird movement and line graphics for some reason. Yeah. Made it look very unique, and I don't think that's a bad thing, but I don't really know if I liked it at the same time.
Right.
It's sort of like, this is a style I appreciate that they were going for, but I also don't really know if it's one that I would have chosen or that I would do myself.
Right.
So it's a difficult one to rank for me. But I think I will put it in the B category below Rabbit Transit because it's not a bad thing. It's just...
Yeah.
I don't really...
The graphics were a big detractor for me.
The vision is confused a little.
Yeah, the graphics, because it was black and white, really, because it was
one
almost
color
like they were
white. Yeah.
It was almost like they were trying to make a vector game without vectors. You know, like a Vectrex or like the original Asteroids where it just had
that
stuff.
could have been where the inspiration came from, but
the aesthetic. I was not a fan. I mean, I'm not going to go. Well, actually, man. Oh, I'm gonna keep it.
It was solid enough, I think, to earn the B.
Yeah.
Like even with those complaints, it's like it did play well.
Yeah.
And the graphics, though they were weird, the movement was pretty good on the amoeba-like things moving around.
Oh yeah, that was really neat how the animation
kind of
on that
shifting.
And then once you shoot them and they turn into like little worms and stuff, and that was neat.
It has some cool stuff. It's just a matter of.
But again, it was very much like Asteroids. It
was an Asteroids pastiche, and doesn't make it bad, but it certainly makes it weird.
Yep.
But the next one is an easy one for me to rank. Survival Island absolutely gets that S. I actually think maybe even better than Dragonstomper.
I was just thinking that.
That game was cool. It's a surprisingly fun dodgem game.
Yeah.
Until you get to the island.
But the fact that you had the food and the water.
Yeah, you're collecting resources for your next stage, or you can use them now, which gives a risk and reward. It just hits on a lot of levels of modern games in a lot of way.
And the code.
Yeah.
And the code.
Long ass code.
We haven't seen have we seen a code before?
I don't think we've seen any code. Maybe one.
Wasn't it the Moto something? I think that had code.
There might have been a code.
I vaguely remember codes before, but
this is the first one that has like something like this. And then when you reset, it goes to the island.
That's the thing with both of these, Dragonstomper and Survival Island. You can hit start
and just
reset.
Keep going.
You can keep going, and it was like, oh, we don't have to start all the way from the beginning. No. You can start right
Which is great when it's this basically two games smushed together like Survival Island. Because once you get there, surprisingly good graphics for one, and you're wandering this island, and it has like...
I wanted to start mapping the place, man.
Yeah, it was very entertaining.
Yes.
It was like, I'm getting into this.
Yes.
And there's an end to this.
Yeah.
You're trying to get somewhere. You want to get to the top of this island or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like... That means there's an end to a 2600 game, which is rare.
Right.
That's one of the rarer things about the 2600. Is a lot of these games don't have you won.
Yeah.
It's just like, it was intended to go and you would lose and then start over and do it again.
Yeah, that was the arcade standard. That's what arcades were all about.
But this has... it has some weight to it. It had weird guys who were coming after you, like the Loch Ness Monster and a perfect triangle. That was to represent the shark. Which was a little funny. Like, no variation. No, that's just a triangle.
Yeah. You knew what it was.
And an octopus who would heal you.
Well, he would give him food and he heals you. There were so many things.
There's a lot going on.
And we only saw possibly the first part of the game. I don't know if there was more, because with these games, with some of these games, like say Dragonstomper and some of the others, is they couldn't load the whole game into memory at once. So they would load in part of it, and then you would advance, and then you would load in the next section. And it's quite possible on Survival Island that it might have actually loaded the next part of the game. Because we're playing on emulation, it went immediately. But I would just see... it'd be really neat to me to okay, you get to the island, you have this sense of accomplishment, and then I don't know if put it in the comments, but it's like we accomplished something now, hit play and then load up the next part of the game. That is just cool to me, and I could just see
satisfying.
It
and it was satisfying even just here, and I am just
and the code, writing down the code, because it would have your life and your food and your water and all that stuff.
It was your specific thing.
And so you would know what code to put in. That is just, I love that when they implemented that.
It's great. It's a great touch, and it might be one of the most interesting games on this system because of that. And that's just really cool to see. Yeah. So it's a well-deserved S from me. The next one is Sweat, the Decathlon game that doesn't exist, which I'll put in D as well. But I will say this. I at least appreciate that they got far enough in that game to be like, all right,
why don't you try a different event?
We're testing some things out. Just put a message on all the events we don't have anything for yet, so that we can come back to it. It's all good. It doesn't matter. We'll finish it later. And it's like, well, it's kind of interesting to see it kind of in the middle of that process.
This one, I kind of feel like, and they might have scrapped it for this reason. Was it going to be that much better than Activision's Decathlon?
Or any of the other sports games, the summer games, the this games, the that games?
I don't see it.
There were too many of them to compete with at this.
Summer games and all these. I feel like it was sort of beating a dead horse. I don't see it. I mean, there's some people I imagine that love those games. I'm pretty indifferent on them. The whole going back and forth on the joystick.
And that's the thing. Nowadays, you could make any number of track and field or games based on the same thing and have them be different and unique in some ways. You can find your specialties and your specializations for them because there's so much more option to how you present it and how you do this and that. it's not going to be that different on the 2600, even if you got your fancy friggin' cassette player thing.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just not going to push it over the edge.
Right. So that might have been a good call for them to say, you know what? No, let's not do this.
Yeah, maybe kick it around to the next generation.
Yep.
But I don't know if they ever did anything else or what happened to Starpath. If you know, let me know, because I'm curious. But we're doing a show here, so I don't have time to look it up. The Sword of Saros. Saros or
Saros, probably.
Yeah. The Sword of that guy.
Uh-huh.
This
is the maze game.
Yeah, I know. I was not that impressed with this one. It was fine. It had a cool maze, had some cool graphics with like skeletons and stuff.
Oh yeah, that was really cool, yeah.
But also, you moved so slow anytime you encountered anything.
Right.
There didn't appear to be any way to actively interact with anything. Any of the bad guys, you're just trying to avoid them. Yeah. There's no like actual fighting of them.
Yeah, it would be nice if you had like a sword or something, but...
Like of Saros, maybe?
Yeah.
I don't know.
And maybe we just didn't get one.
And maybe, but it's just like there's no options. You're going to run into something almost guaranteed. And you're just supposed to run and very, very slowly run to these different ports and pick up some stuff. And then try and figure out how to leave, which we never consistently were able to do.
Right.
So it's just like, it's one of those, I think there was a concept here and the graphics are cool. I almost want to give this a C, but I'm going to give it a low B instead.
And why is that? Wyatt?
No particular reason.
I was thinking the same thing. I'm like going, I can't give it a C.
It would ruin the list.
Yes.
But it's also, to be fair, there's a reason outside of just how satisfying it is to have a company whose only games that
we can't. Exactly. That's hilarious.
Secondarily, I will say, again, the graphics were really interesting, and there's probably more to it. It was the last game we played, and we had the least amount of time to play it.
Sure.
So I don't want to write it off as though it couldn't have been more.
Right.
It's
almost give them a benefit of the doubt because it was on the Supercharger,
B for benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
So, like, I'll give it some grace, basically. Like, I don't think it was a game I'd come back to a lot, but it is a game I could see myself going to see, okay, what am I missing?
Yeah,
there's something
else
here.
Yeah, exactly. And it's quite possible that there was. We just didn't get there.
And, of course, much like every manual at the time, in some ways negative, in some ways positive, this fact, but very flowery manual at first, where it's not actually telling you what's going on. It's just like, in a deep, dank maze.
Yeah, exactly.
Ooh, and it kind of alludes to what the mechanics are.
Yeah, give the lore,
And it's like, I love the lore. I love when manuals would give you lore. I also liked it when there was a very clear, right before that.
Yeah, quick getting started. Yes.
And then it's like, ooh, Jack and Dexter are gonna go slap some people or whatever.
If you want to read more, go ahead. But here's what you need to know in a one-page pamphlet.
Here's what you need.
Yeah.
Here's a story synopsis, and here's the deeper lore in case you want it.
Right.
That's the thing I love, and they should bring back manuals. But that's neither here nor there.
Physical media would probably be
I want more physical media.
It's funny. There's a lot of people that feel like, physical media might actually make a comeback. Because,
it kind of has to, in a way.
Yeah.
The way that, you know what? We don't have to get super into it.
Yeah, I'm just there all the time.
Just going to throw out my hot take here. Streaming is slowly destroying media, and we do kind of need to make sure that there are physical copies of things, because as a lot of these streaming services who put out amazing content have shown, they can just take it away, and then it's nowhere.
Yep.
Then it's like, oh, I didn't obviously buy the DVD copy when it was in stores for the brief amount of time that it was, because it's on streaming, and now it's not. Uh-oh.
Yep. Anyway, that's a whole other topic that we can get into another day.
Maybe in another stream sometime, but I will say this, though. Getting back to this physical media, these are some of the most interesting games on the 2600, and it's a great way to end this Starpath through the 2600's catalog.
Yes.
I can't say that I'm not a little sad to see the end of them, and also can't say that I'm not a little happy to see the end of them.
Yeah. It's been good and bad. I mean, it's always interesting to me when we've done these and we play something, like for me, playing the first time, like Survival Island and Dragonstomper, I was blown away. I'm just like, wow, this is so cool. These games, I didn't have them as a kid, so I didn't really, I had no idea that they were even a thing. Yes, the Supercharger is pretty rare, so you don't really see it much in the wild. So most people would not have experience with that. But if you had this, I can't imagine these not being the number one games for you, because if you had it, yes, you had to have the special hardware. These are top games, in my opinion. We try to rank them, fairly here, but I mean, they outdid a lot of other games that came before this. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't like this came out in like 89, like we've had in some of these games where they came out so late, like all the Epix games, they came out so late in the cycle that, it's obviously better. Well, they had like 10 years to warm up.
They could basically just slap together the perfect version of that game on the 2600.
Exactly.
Whereas these came out during a time where stuff was still happening.
Yep.
Crashes were going on.
Yes.
Difficulty, but they made amazing games.
Yep.
And they took it a step above, and I think they should be lauded for that.
Yeah.
And I am glad to have ended with these guys, but from beginning to end, look at these. Maybe we could do this, maybe we can't, but look at these pictures of us when we first started. Look how young. look how young we are.
I think I had more hair.
Maybe, yeah. Who knows?
I think so.
But just how young we were, unknowing of all the adventures we were going to have. Naive young people thinking like, we'll play some 2600 games for a couple of weeks. And here we are in the next calendar
year. It just kept going, because it was like, hey, people want to see more. I was originally thinking just kind of like the hits, go the Atari games and Magic and Activision, and kind of be like, okay, yeah, that's probably good.
But we have now played like the catalog
of all of them. I mean, there's a couple exceptions, but
those are special exceptions, and they're secrets.
Yes, we're not going there. But in any case, this has been fun.
Who knows what we're talking about?
I've had a lot of fun with this, and seeing these S titles, those are the ones that I think that I really enjoy. Yes, I knew there was going to be a lot of stinkers, and we've had like the last month worth. They've been kind of not so great.
Mixed games.
Yes, exactly.
But we've had some incredible ones too, and now here we are, and the games we've played have been worth it.
Oh, yeah,
I'm excited to have played them.
You can put this on your resume. Played all Atari 2600 games.
You know what? I could do that. Will I?
There you go.
Who knows?
Yeah. All right, guys. I think that's it for us. So for the last time, at least for these videos, see you in the next adventure. Take care.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to hit the like button. If you'd like to see more of this kind of content, be sure to hit the subscribe button and ring the bell. I post new videos all the time, and I wouldn't want you to miss any. If you'd like to see more of this series, be sure to click up here. And if you'd like to see something else, be sure to click up here.